Welcome.
Hello. On the menu today in this Quick Bites episode, I've been donated this Amiga 600 by one of the developers from Team17 who made the Worms games. He also gave me their fully loaded Amiga 4000 development machines with the hard drives and contents intact. Yep, he gave me Worms, and I'll be exploring those contents in an upcoming episode, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But the reason this episode is a quick bite is, well, sometimes things are pretty complicated and you need a long episode, or in the case of turning the Commodore Music Maker into this, 3 or 5 episodes. But sometimes things are really simple, as is the case here. So firstly, let's clean up this Amiga 600. It's in great cosmetic condition, just has a bit of grub on the surface, probably all those worms. And you can see rather interestingly that he's installed a full-size IDE hard disk in here. It fits pretty well, it just causes the case to bow a little bit here. So I'm going to be installing an alternative. But first, I need some alcohol. Oh no, the warranty is invalid. Sell that on Fleabay. That was interesting. Alright, looking pretty nice. Almost good as new. He's really kept this in great condition. And you know, I've always had a soft spot for the Amiga 600. I mean, who wouldn't? It's like a compact modern day Amiga 500. Look at those lines. Now, let's get unscrewing. And there's the beast itself, and you can see here how it's been wired in to work with the Amiga 600 IDE connection. Wow, it's like very small worms. Alright, and there's our ribbon cable restored and ready for a floppy disk, or alternative. Mysterious. But before I get to that, I did notice the keyboard wire had come loose here, so we'll just solder it back in place. Grab the water off our lovely recycled PCB drinks coaster, and wet the soldering iron sponge. Tin the tip, tin the wire, heat up the pad, job done. Let me just stick this in the hole. Now, just before I install that replacement drive that I mentioned, I'm going to try an original floppy drive in here, just to make sure everything fits and works. Oh, this one's missing the eject button. Not to worry, I found a replacement on Thingamajigamiverse or something. It's a 3D model by M.F. Wieland. I'll get that printed up at my local library for free, and that should do the job nicely. And here's that mysterious device I'm going to be using. This is my HxC Slim, and it's similar to a Gotek drive, only it uses SD cards instead of thumb drives. But the reason I like it is because it's slim. You see, when I installed this 3D printed Gotek mount, it was cool enough, but the Gotek has this LCD display and everything doesn't quite line up properly with the floppy drive slot unless you get a 3D printed mount. But with the HxC Slim, it could actually go right here if I were to find a plate to rest on the edge of the A600 chassis like that. The question is, what could I use? Wait a minute. Could it be that simple? So this was upcycled from a real PCB. It's got some nice shock absorbing backing there. Cork blimey. And that fits perfectly onto that chassis edge. Let's try it out. Okay, looks good. Only thing is I'm going to have to secure the PCB into the computer again. So I'm going to use tape. No, don't be silly. I'm just securing this down so I can make a template marker with a pen. But I'm going to need to find some bolts and nuts to secure that in there, if I can ever get this tape off my thumb. Excuse me. Your nuts?
No, you're nuts.
No, I mean like nuts and bolts for an Amiga 600.
I thought I was your Amiga.
No, like the computer. It came from another man.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Huh. That'd be perfect for my other man's Amiga. Of course, here's my real Amiga. Machine screws? Ah, that's why she didn't understand what nuts were. So the reason I'm using a bolt is I want to use those existing floppy disk mounting holes in the case of the Amiga. I really want this to be completely non-destructive and not make any holes in this special machine. Oh, machine screws. I get it now. But I can make a hole in the drinks coaster. Although, having said that, apparently I can't make a hole in the drinks coaster. It just won't go in. Now I know how Puppyfractic feels trying to get her peanut butter into the house. It just won't go in either. You tried. Yay, did it.
Yay, did it.
Finally, they don't make them like they used to, hey? I wonder what this tough old PCB was. If you recognise it, do let me know in the comments. Now the bolt is a bit long here and protrudes on the disk drive port, so I'm going to get my mini hack. Actually, one of my nicknames. Don't try this in situ like I am, unless you have a really steady hand. No, this is taking too long. Let's go Robo-Perry. And then once you've got about halfway through, you can just twist off the rest of the bolt, like that. Look at that, completely secure and non-destructive. And in all seriousness, I hope you can understand why I love this solution. You know, this PCB was once upcycled, and now it's been recycled or downcycled back into a computer component once more. Personally, I just find that very satisfying. And I didn't have to spend any money on 3D prints. Speaking of PCBs, if you want to design your own PCB or even your own drinks coaster PCB, I recommend PCBWay. They offer a full assembly service, so they'll put the drinks coaster together for you, because as we all know, PCB stands for Printed Coaster Board, doesn't it? And of course then I realised that it wasn't tall enough, so out it comes again. But this gives us a good opportunity to demonstrate how this was completely non-destructive, doesn't leave a mark on the Amiga.
I thought I was your Amiga.
Now luckily I had a whole pack of these, so here's how two look sandwiched together, and that gives us the perfect height this time. And I've used some thin, removable self-adhesive pads there to mount it to the PCB printed coaster board. So all that remains is to put everything back together. And there it is in place. Look how beautifully that lines up. Got our disk image swap button and our SD card ready to go. All circuits functioning perfectly, and there's only one floppy disk I can think of putting in there. Don't worry, we've got the HxC menu system to load up some ADF worms. What did you think of this idea to recycle an upcycled downcycle? Well, you get the idea. Did you think it was perfect to give this a new lease of life and save a bit of money at the same time? Or did you think it was stupid? Either way, I'll see you soon. Remember, I publish new episodes most Saturdays. Until then, comment below and cheerio.
What's this?
You're nuts?
No, you're nuts.